Greta Thunberg, what an impressive young woman. Let's speak now to Nathan Hultman. He's director of the Center for Global Sustainability at the University of Maryland, and Alyssa Gilbert from the Grantham Institute in London. First of all, let me start with you, Alyssa. It's been noticeable to me that we've had a lot of demonstrations recently and protests in central London and around Europe, particularly the ones with the school children I'm thinking of as well, and almost nothing here in the United States in terms of street action. Is there one effort that works better than others in terms of pushing politicians to take action on climate change?
Well, it's really context specific, actually. And so I think a lot of the groups who really want to see action on climate change are really, they know what it is that makes their politicians in their local area, be that a regional politician or a national politician, really take notice. And in some cases, that might be the voices of their constituency, human voices and stories. In some cases, it's really action on the street that really leads to change rather than leads to negative reaction.
Nathan, I wonder, Extinction Rebellion and other climate groups, they're calling for, well, in the Extinction Rebellion case, for Britain to become carbon neutral, or zero carbon actually, by 2025, in 6 years' time. How does a country do that? Is it possible for a country to do that?
Well, it's certainly possible for countries to set goals like that that are highly ambitious. We know that we have technologies available today that can be deployed in all levels of government that can help drive that emissions trajectory down. That's going to be different, just like the protests were specific to specific cases. It'll be different in different countries, in different political cases of where exactly countries can get by which date. But it is the case that we can do much more than we're doing today, and that it is absolutely the right thing to do to look at what can be done in each of those political contexts to drive the emissions down as rapidly as possible.
Nathan, I'm hearing some debate amongst environmentalists about whether it's better to push carrot or stick, whether it's better to give people a sense of incentives and positive that you can have a better lifestyle out of this, or whether it's better to push the idea that we all have to make sacrifices because this is a catastrophic moment. Is there one way that works better than the other?
Well, I think you have to have both in some ways. It's absolutely the case that we can address the problems that we're looking at today, but it's also the correct thing to do to level with everybody and for us all to be aware that the acuteness of the problem is great and that it will require, in fact, a tremendous amount of effort between now and, say, 2030 for us to get on that correct trajectory. It's estimated that we need to reduce coal emissions by something like 60 to 70% by that date in order to be on the right pathway towards stabilizing global climate change.
Alyssa, carrot or stick?
I think that most of the changes that we need to make to tackle climate change can actually be really beneficial to people. So I would say it's really about carrots. There's a lot of change involved, though, and I think to a lot of people that can seem negative or seem really difficult. We talk about things like maybe changing the way you might travel or changing what you might eat. But actually, over time, we change a lot anyway over the different decades. We change a lot about the technologies that we use in our homes. And so our lives do look different, and that really, really can be better.
I think that's a very interesting way of putting it, because I think most people think of the kinds of things they have to do in order to live a more sustainable green life, and they think, oh my goodness, I can't take airplanes anymore, I have to stop eating beef, I have to stop drinking milk. And that's when people refuse to make the kind of, faced with war on their doorsteps, people will make changes to their lifestyle, will make sacrifices. Otherwise, it's really hard to get mankind to sacrifice.
Absolutely. I would encourage people to choose one of the things they feel comfortable with, that it doesn't feel like a big deal to them, but actually is a big deal for the climate. It could be insulating your home, or if you're a tenant, asking your landlord very forcefully to do so. It could be changing what you eat once or twice a week, or trying something like that out differently. Do something that just you feel like you could have a go. Make your next vehicle electric or zero carbon. If you're refurbishing your house already, ask someone what it would look like to do so without a boiler and with zero carbon heating. Those technologies exist. Why don't you be the first person to have it?
Nathan, is it enough for this to be? Because some of the things that Alyssa was mentioning there, you'd have to be relatively affluent. You'd have to have the money to replace your boiler or to replace your car and to go electric at the moment. Is this something that, let's call it the middle class, the global middle class could do now, and that would be enough?
Well, I think what those options that were mentioned are absolutely important for everybody to look at in their own personal context, and it will be helpful for everybody to evaluate what they can do, maybe one thing, maybe several from that list. But it's also absolutely important to realize two things. First of all, we are already on that transition. All the changes are happening now. There are many states, even in the United States, that are doing a lot, cities, states, businesses, communities of faith, and others that are stepping up and in their own institutional contexts, driving forward via policy or decisions that they're taking, more ambitious climate action. And that's the kind of thing that I think we need to focus on, that connects the personal motivation, the personal efforts that many people are taking across the world today, but to have everybody realize that we all need to be at this moment working within all of the organizations that we're part of, all the levels of government, all the levels of governance, all the institutions, and drive those institutions to also implement policies that will do more. And when we do that, the power of all those individual actions will have leverage and will aggregate to what we need to do.
Yeah, it's really
So
important.
I'm really interested in the psychology of this. Go ahead, Alyssa, go on.
No, I think it's really important just to emphasize that point, that governments and businesses need to enable those individuals to make decisions. So if businesses don't provide the products that help people live a low-carbon lifestyle, then people will be frustrated, right? People are ready to take action now.
Okay. Alyssa, Nathan, thank you very much for joining us. Great discussion. Thank you very much. If Christian was here, he would tell us all about his electric car and how he is doing his bit. I think there is something very interesting in the psychology of this and whether people have a sense of futility, that their tiny action won't make a difference.